Hello, I'm Askar Sherliyev and you're watching news from Kazakhstan. Workers of the Kirov coal mine in Karaganda region came out to rally on Thursday, October 4th, not having been paid salaries for a month and a half. They demanded employers to pay off their debts from both inside and outside the mine.
It is a bad situation. They don't pay our salaries or pay with the delay. The equipment is outdated. You can't imagine, it's practically unusable. We restore it since they don't use any new equipment, no financing. Around 50 miners of Kirovskaya mine didn't come up to the surface after the end of their shift. They only decided to stop the strike after the negotiation with the regional authorities and representatives of the new investor Association of the Mines, Gefest, who promised that the salaries will be paid tomorrow. The name of the new investor remains unknown, but it was promised that the mine workers will learn it soonest. We had that meeting, met the new investor who signed a protocol. It is written there that the delayed salaries will be paid before October 5th, 2012, and September salaries will be paid before 10th of October 2012. He also promised that there will be investments here, and we hope they will be successful in this.
Kazakhmys Corporation minority shareholders demand their rights to priority purchase of stocks. Employees of what was then called Kazakhstan Tsvetmet purchased its stocks in the late 90s, but with the arrival of Kazakhmys, they were unable to exchange their old stocks on time. Kazakhstan residents appealed to different agencies, but the decision still depends on company management and the government.
The ex-employee of Kazakhmys company Vera Vavilova is looking at her stocks. Now these are just worthless pieces of paper. Back in 2003, the company's management did not invite her and thousands of other shareholders to the meeting on exchange of the equity, and people lost their right of the preferential purchase of the shares. As a result, Vavilova's shares devalued 6 times, and she says that 4,500 other shareholders are in the same situation. Novachuk confirmed that 500 persons bought the shares, mostly foreigners. 4,000 shareholders were in effect robbed, while only 11% could use the situation to their favor, including those foreigners and some shareholders. Minority shareholders, those who have shares but do not have any voting rights, appealed to the management of the corporation, Eduardo Gay and Vladimir Kim, but in vain. They wrote a statement to Financial Police and Prosecutor's Office, but received a response citing the imperfect laws and their own powerlessness. Former employees' dreams to live on dividends vanished. The shareholders are outraged. Top managers spend exorbitant sums on weddings and birthdays, while the workers that participate in privatization of the factories they worked at never received any sizable income. And it is certainly impossible to reach anywhere near the multi-million fortune of the owner of Kazakhmys, Vladimir Kim. We were simply deprived of our rights, and some emotional people say that we were robbed. At the time of transformation to PLC, I had $13,000 to $16,000, but this is the amount after they cut it. I should have had around $65,000 to $80,000, and this money would be sufficient to live without problems on my dividends.
Этих денег бы мне хватило спокойно жить, не работая, просто на одни дивиденды.
For an activist with experience working at government structures, Petr Svoik, the situation with the shareholders of Kazakhmys is not surprising. He explains that when the wave of privatization rolled through the country, many companies used the same scheme to sell their shares to people.
Ну, пришлось там где-то 5, 10, иногда даже 15% отдать, как говорится, трудовым коллективам.
People had to give up 5 to 10%, sometimes even 15% to collective pools. But the real idea behind this was to take these shares back. Although it seems like 10% does not really count, but this is not true. And it was the authorities themselves that used the law in their favor in order to cut extra shareholders.
Сама власть использовала закон для того, чтобы отсечь и вот этих ненужных акционеров.
Former employees tried to reach the country's highest echelons with their problem, but did not receive any response from either Karim Masimov's government or the president. Now the minority shareholders are planning to appeal to the international human rights activists, since the corporation is listed in the international markets. The company has not yet responded to journalists' official request for comments.
Kazakhstan's environmentalists are once again appealing to the government with the demand to put a moratorium on the construction of a nuclear power plant. The appeal was voiced at a round table attended by national and foreign experts in Astana. They agreed on one thing: the government is either underestimating possible risks or someone is benefiting from ignoring them.
Arguments around the construction of the nuclear station are going on for some time already. They intensified after the authorities announced that by the year 2020, reactors in the country will become operational. Aktau, the city of the Caspian Shore, is being considered as one of the possible sites, but the environmentalists are against this. They think that the construction of the station should be postponed until such time the truly safe technologies are developed. The Russian reactors that are suggested for use now haven't been tested yet. Nuclear energy stations are a big business, and population has to be aware of all possible risks. The seismicity in the northern water area of the Caspian Sea is going to rise since the oil drilling is on the increase. The experts say even now the seismicity is at 7 to 9 points on Richter scale. And they say now that the reactor is very powerful. And that it is earthquake-proof. But we know that there are problems with this.
Mangistau region residents are also speaking out against the power plant construction in Aktau. They say it amounts to sacrificing them.
It has become public in September that the first Kazakh nuclear power station will be built near the existing heat station in Aktau. It will be built together with the Russians. Local residents, however, think that because Aktau is located at the earthquake-prone zone, the officials have to reject the idea. Tragedies of Chernobyl and Fukushima have to be a lesson for us, they say. It is foolish to build nuclear stations when some countries are rejecting them. Of course it is dangerous. I don't agree with this. There will be no benefit from the station. I think we don't need it. It shouldn't be built here. The station will only bring additional problems for us. We already are surrounded by the radiation, and if they do build the station, it will be even worse.
The third meeting of construction housing for 460 residents was disrupted in West Kazakhstan region. Residents claim the new settlement will threaten the environment, suspecting that waste materials will be dumped in the Bulatov River.
Zhaik Munai Company was behind the idea of the construction. According to the oil company, the new town will appear in Zelensky area. However, in accordance to the law, the local residents have to be consulted before the project starts. Today, the writer Alpamis Bekturganov came to the meeting and was voted the chairman of that meeting. But the governor and some representatives of authorities were not happy with this decision. When the argument subsided, the contractor spoke and informed the meeting that there have been changes made to the project and there will be no dumping of the waste to the river. But Bekturganov asked not to take any hurried decisions and postpone the discussions. Let us wait until the resolution of the environmentalists. Tomorrow, we will listen to the environment experts, director of the ecological department, the contractor and its customer, the governor, anyone who we find.
The investigation in the case of Oborgard Vladimir Chelach is officially complete and attorneys are searching case materials, announced the Prosecutor General's office. It was also revealed on Thursday that the Arkan Kergen outpost soldier, who is suspected of killing 14 fellow soldiers and a huntsman, is charged with one more crime. Details next.
The investigation of the much-talked-about Vladislav Chelach case is over. The General Prosecutor's Office made an announcement yesterday at a special briefing. Now the defendant and his attorneys are familiarizing themselves with numerous materials of the case. Defense says it will take 2 weeks or more to study materials. The defendant and his attorneys will be given plenty of time needed to study all the materials of the case. However, if they temporize on purpose, the investigator has every right to set a term within which they are to make themselves aware of the case. How many volumes are in the case? How many witnesses? The representative of the prosecutor's office did not answer other questions from the reporters. It is known that Vladislav Chelach is being incriminated with 9 articles, not 8, as it was before. They doubled the charges of theft, theft from huntsmen, possessions, and from soldiers. Another article, theft of secret files, raises a lot of questions for Svetlana Vashenko, the defendant's mother. She's certain that the map of the state border that her son allegedly had taken is far-fetched, just like all of the other accusations. I think there was no map in the first place. Even if there was some map, it was not a secret file. The lawyer explained to me that there indeed was some map, but it did not have a stamp. And when they brought charges against my son, they put a stamp on it reading classified information. I hope that the judges and the jury will not put their people behind bars. Meanwhile, the bodies of the two border guards have not yet been identified. As the prosecutor's office reported earlier, the German experts failed to retrieve DNA cells which could be used to identify the people. Celak, who earlier admitted to murdering 15 people on Arkan-Kirgen border post in Almaty region, later refused from the testimony. He claims he had testified under pressure. Yesterday, the lawyer Toligen Beredikjanov informed colleagues over the phone that the trial would most probably be open and start in mid or early November. The defense insists that the jury participate in proceedings.
A Kazakh delegation will visit the United Arab Emirates to negotiate extradition, said the Deputy Prosecutor General Johan Merkel in the hallways of the Senate on Thursday.
We're planning to pay a visit on the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs level, some of my deputies, or perhaps the General Prosecutor himself. I can't say for sure now, but the visit to the United Arab Emirates will definitely take place because 10 of our people are there now. Johan Merkel said that signing of the agreement is not possible yet. Some of the officials and businessmen who participated in tenders and shared equity construction ran away there. Also, according to General Prosecutor's Office information, Anar Mishrimbayeva, the ex-head of the statistics agency, has been put on the wanted list. It should be noted that recently two countries refused to extradite the criminals to Kazakhstan based on Council of Europe recommendation. Those are Switzerland, Great Britain and Germany. To recap, the Khrapunov family that was put onto the wanted list has long been living in Switzerland, and London used to provide shelter for the banker Mukhtar Ablazov. Meanwhile, Salimatian, ex-presidential candidate, is certain once Kazakh side furnishes full information to the government of those countries who are sheltering the fugitives, they'll extradite them. He's certain that it is the Kazakhstan authorities who do not really want their fellow countrymen to come back home. Now, no one in Kazakhstan really wants Khrapunov or any other to return to Kazakhstan. Ravens do not pick ravens' eyes. This is the principle that is applied here. They know who is stealing and who helped them to do it. They know how much Khrapunov and Kazhageldin stole. It means that neither of them should speak anything that might harm them.
The controversial American film Innocence of Muslims is now considered extremist in Kazakhstan, concluded Astana Sararka District Court. The judge needed just 1 hour to ban its exhibition and distribution across the republic. Details next.
The banned Innocence. Court hearings on the Prosecutor's General Office lawsuit against the film called The Innocence of Muslims was held in Astana on Thursday to recount the scandalous 14-minute video appeared on the internet on the anniversary of terrorist attacks in New York on September 11th. The motion picture caused a tidal wave of protest in the Muslim world. $100,000 is the award promised to whoever kills the director of this film. A number of Arab countries hurried to prohibit the short-length film. In some cases, the government closed access to YouTube, where the video was posted, and the Google search engine. The film was only noticed by people in Kazakhstan by September 21st. On Wednesday, the prosecutor requested the Sararka District Court to declare the film as non-compliant with the legislation of Kazakhstan. To ensure the national security of Kazakhstan, it is necessary to declare the film The Innocence of Muslims as extremist and to ban the import, distribution, and its publication in Kazakhstan. The representatives of the executive authority branch also supported the prosecutor. The staff of the Agency for Religious Affairs and the Ministry of Transport and Communications, who attended the court, petitioned for the immediate execution of the decision if the film will be banned. The chief judge of the Central Institute of Forensics in Astana, Rosa Akbarova, supported the demands of government agencies. She said that the film is an affirmation of the inferiority and corruption of the Muslim religion. The Prophet Muhammad, contrary to generally accepted Islamic sources, is displayed as a man born as a result of fornication, who is greedy, suicidal, ignorant, socially deviant, pedophile, and murdering people for profit. Upon hearing out the arguments of both the experts and the prosecutor, the judge Kuaныш Jaksыбергенов went to a jury room and announced the verdict in less than an hour. The court ruled to declare the film to be of extremist nature, ordering to prevent its import and distribution on the territory of Kazakhstan. Thus, the representative of the Ministry of Transport and Communications said that despite the fact that the decision will take effect in 15 days, a link to the film has been already temporarily disabled. The ministry received a court decree to temporarily prevent the spread of this video. The communication operators have complied with the decree, therefore you will not be able to go online and watch this film. Spokesman of the Ministry of Transport and Communications noted that blocking the film in Kazakhstan is not a problem. The agreement has already been made with Google on eliminating the video from indexation once the court decree is provided.
Muslims are at the center of attention in Russian capital. Several incidents related to followers of Islam made headlines in the papers. A police officer was beaten near a mosque. Then Muslims were beaten by police officers. To top it off, an ad hoc demonstration was held against the construction of a mosque in Moscow. The next report covers the latest events.
The verification of documents by police after Friday prayers in one of the largest mosques in the Russian capital quickly turned into a scuffle with the subsequent dispersal. This is a different mosque, but the concept is the same. Police have been trying to establish dialogue with Muslims for the second week. According to the media, the tension is growing. It also suggests a version of what caused such an intense ID check. This video was posted on YouTube 3 weeks ago. The resolution quality is not very good, but emotional comments are very self-explanatory. Muslims beat up 2 police officers. As it later turned out, this is how the migrants who came to the mosque responded to ID checks. This is a spontaneous rally in the residential district of Moscow. These people are against the construction of a mosque. They have nothing against Muslims. They are against traffic jams, which might be occurring due to the flow of believers attending the mosque prayers. Yet they contradict themselves, says the political expert Alexei Malashenko. The issue of Islamophobia is relevant, while the authorities have not come up with a way to resolve it, which might have negative consequences, he says. They talk about dialogue a lot, but that is nonsense because the issue of Islamophobia and the tension there with Muslims and the rest of the population only increases. The footage of the very same mosque was made on the day of Eid. There are about 80 to 100,000 faithful Muslims gathered here. That is exactly how all Muslim holidays are held in Moscow. And that is exactly what the people who oppose the construction of a mosque are afraid of. Apparently the authorities are afraid as well, considering the number of policemen deployed in the area. The Mufti Khazir shared that in 20 years of him serving in the mosque, there were no incidents, although largely due to security officials. We are very grateful to law enforcement officers and Moscow authorities for ensuring the public order these days. The Muslim gathering is slowly dissolving after the prayer at a temporary mosque in Mir Avenue. All are equal before Allah, yet the immigrants stick out in Moscow. Zahir is a very experienced immigrant from Tajikistan who arrived in Moscow about 15 years ago. Now he is a Russian citizen. He refrained from making comments on the attitude towards the Muslim immigrants. There are not enough mosques in Moscow, with 6 million Muslims and only 4 mosques. If there are Orthodox churches in each district, then why can't we have as many mosques? The Mufti agrees with this issue. There is a major shortage of mosques in Moscow. Perhaps that is why the Muslim population is a bit irritated. Yet Islam is a religion of patience and humility. We are constantly writing letters because we realize that our believers need a place to pray. We even agree to have it built in the industrial zone. Certainly not in the center, but on the outskirts. We have 4 mosques for 2 million Muslims, and we need at least 4 more. However, so far we have only been receiving formal replies, saying that maybe one day. At this point, the tension has not exceeded the everyday life level, but it is still not clear how much longer the police will be checking IDs at the entrance to the mosques.
Kazakh oligarch Vladimir Kim played a part in the closing of Panorama newspaper, claims Respublika newspaper. In an editorial letter sent in by a reader, it says that Panorama was not closed down by Nurjan Subhanberdin. The author notes that the publication was financed by Kazkommertsbank, and now the question stands: was its closing connected with the suspension of Mrs. Kim's deposits in the same bank? The reader says around $53,000 was withdrawn of the account every month to finance the newspaper. In the meantime, Assistant Chief Editor Askar Aukenov called out to sponsors online, saying that journalists are willing to continue working once funding is restored.
The insider information might be the explanation to this. On September 16th, several deposit accounts and significant amounts of funds were withdrawn to Ms. Kim. This information means that the shutdown of the deposit accounts and not the decision of Nurjan Subhanberdin, who owned 40% of shares in the newspaper, while other 2 in total have only 20%, became the true reason for the shutdown of Panorama newspaper. On September 28, website Gulzhan.org, which had a relatively high popularity, was shut down. In one of its last publications, the article of Togzhan Altunbayeva, Mr. Kim, who is behind the cutting of copper mountains, which demonstrated schemes of possible withdrawal of capital from the country to offshore zones by Vladimir Kim via questionable LLPs.
An Almaty bank was picketed by creditors on Thursday. They attempted to break into executive offices and issue a warning. They will not tolerate the financial institution's unfulfilled promises to restructure loans.
Activists of the new movement Provide Hiding to the People are not waiting at the Center Credit Bank offices. People had to rally in order to attract attention to their problem, as NGOs leaders say the bank is suing the insolvent clients. In court, bank representatives assure everyone that the financial institution is trying to understand the client's situation and allows the payoff of the loans in the acceptable time frame. Once the court decision comes to force, they deny their own words and transfer the case to the private executors. And these executors say that we should either sell the apartment voluntarily, and in that case would only pay 10% of the debt, or otherwise they will seize it and sell, and we will have to pay at 30% rate. This is how Center Credit Bank provokes people and creates social tension. People at the rally are sure that in the end the bank's clients, the court, and the Samruk-Kazyna Foundation will be fooled. They remind of April's meeting of the National Bank with other banks on the issue of decreasing the monthly payoffs to the borrowers with payment problems down to $67 in Almaty and $34 in other cities. The bank did not make their position available yet. Hello, this person is still tied up. Please call tomorrow. Can you not speak to us today? No, the person who can provide information is busy. He's at the meeting. Participants of the action tried to give their petition to the bank management, but they were not allowed. The secretary promised that the answer will be provided within 15 days. Members of the movement and borrowers threatened to complain to the creditor, to Samruk-Kazyna Foundation, and even set the date for this, October 15, 2012.
School teachers are asking for Parliament's assistance to legally protect them from parents' threats. Our correspondents attempted to find out why the teachers are concerned.
Almaty teachers ask to protect them from their students' parents, as their intervention negatively affects the educational process. For example, it is becoming commonplace for influential parents to call teachers and urge them to overmark their children. Thus, teachers propose deputies to develop a particular law defining the rights and responsibilities of parents and teachers. A teacher must be protected in a legal framework. Thus, the law must regulate the relationship of school and family, a parent and a teacher, a student and a teacher. The head teacher of Almaty Lyceum number 48, Irina Smirnova, refuses to overmark a student. The student's father insulted her. She went to court. The trial ended in a draw only because a district police officer made a mistake in the procedure of drawing up a legal case. We had a strange conversation. He said that he had no further questions for me. I asked him to be more polite. He said that first I had to deserve his respect. I said I obeyed the government and was not going to gain favor with him. Then he stood up, leaned over me, and said that it was the last lucky day in my life. He said that he had enough power to kick me out of the school. Residents of Almaty support the idea of teachers. Some of them say that threats against teachers are unacceptable. The interference with the educational process may adversely affect students' academic performance and even lead to their degradation. Only teachers have the right to mark students at school. How can a parent affect this process? It is fundamentally wrong to overmark students. This very child will study further. Knowledge cannot be bought. I think every child should get a mark he or she really deserves. Psychologists also confirm the fact that it is a child who mostly suffers from disagreement between a teacher and a parent. It can even lead to suicide. People's deputies will have to decide whether teachers' appeals are enough to develop a law regulating conflicts between teachers and parents.
Defenders of the motherland may now officially celebrate their professional holiday on May 7th. The Parliament approved amendments to the legislation and labeled the date an official holiday. In the meantime, this year's fall draftees were sent off in Astana on Thursday.
The draftees listened to the wise words and advice and attended a festive concert before going to the army. The young defenders of the motherland were shown weapons and military equipment as well as martial arts skills. Military officials say that the number of people wanting to go to the army is rising with every passing year. The autumn draft is expected to gather around 14,000 young men from all over the country. The number of girls who want to take the role of G.I. Jane soldier is also rising. Potential recruits who are now studying in city schools have also attended the event. We're showing different branches of armed forces and the types of tasks set before them. They'll have the opportunity to see it all with their eyes and to touch the military equipment. I believe they'll enjoy it.
The biggest monument in Kazakhstan is being erected in Shymkent. Big B weighs 9 tons and stands 23 meters tall, including the pedestal and the hill. Baydibek B is a legendary forebear of several upper Jews lines. The copper statue will adorn the northern entrance to the city. Its author is the famous Nasir Rustemov. After long thoughts and consultations with the officials, the sculptor decided to show Kazakhstan's heroes in a different light.
There are many equestrian statues in Kazakhstan and in other republics, including the statues of Bogdan Khmelnytsky, Peter the Great, you name it, whereas we decided to use him as a symbol, but without a horse. The reason why we made the statue with both hands raised is because we wanted to avoid our statue resemble the Lenin monument. The unique statue will be mounted on one of the highest elevation points in the city at 220 meters. The international team of sculptors, including experts from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, was working on the monument. They claim that the statue of Shymkent's Baydibek B with a price tag of over $166,000 will be the tallest monument in Central Asia.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. Stay well.